So you're sitting at your desk, right? You're staring at the blinking cursor of ChatGPT or Claude, and there's just this little voice in the back of your head that whispers, is this thing going to take my job?
Yeah, that is the exact fear everyone is having right now.
I mean, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. Ever since late 2022, when large language models just sort of burst into the mainstream and started, writing poetry and passing the bar exam, practically everyone who works on a computer has been holding their breath.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this collective anxiety.
Exactly. There's this quiet panic that we're all just like one software update away from becoming obsolete. But for this deep dive, our mission is to really cut through that panic and the endless hype cycle.
Right.
We are not looking at sci-fi predictions today.
Right. No crystal balls here.
Yeah, instead we are looking at hard empirical data spanning over 150 million jobs. This is drawing on a synthesis by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover of some groundbreaking new research from Anthropic and OpenAI. We really want to know what's actually happening out there in the real world, your real job.
And to understand what is happening right now, we first need to look at why so many of our initial fears were based on a deeply flawed premise.
Okay.
Because when a new technology arrives, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the historical track record of predicting how it will impact jobs is just consistently terrible.
Like we always get it wrong.
We always get it wrong. We have made the exact same forecasting mistake for decades. We look at a new tool, we vastly overestimate the short-term job destruction, and we completely underestimate the long-term transformation of the work itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. What do you mean by the historical track record? Give me an example of when we got this wrong before.
Sure. So think back to the intense panic over job offshoring in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Right. There were major, highly respected studies claiming a quarter of all U.S. jobs were incredibly vulnerable to being sent overseas permanently. It was treated as this, impending apocalypse for the middle class.
Right, the idea that every office job was leaving.
Exactly. Or look at the massive fears around industrial robots a few decades earlier. The narrative was that everyone on the assembly line was going to be replaced by a mechanical arm.
But they weren't.
No. In almost all those historical cases, the industries that were supposedly doomed actually maintained really healthy employment growth over the following decade. The core mistake we make time and time again is conflating two entirely different questions.
Which are?
We ask, can this new technology do this specific job? And we assume the answer to that is identical to the answer for, will this technology reduce overall employment in this occupation? And those are just fundamentally different concepts.
Oh, I see. That distinction makes a lot of sense. So just because a robot can weld a car door doesn't mean you need fewer factory workers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you just, build way more cars.
Precisely. You expand production.
But wait, if we've known since the 2000s that these job loss predictions are usually wrong, why did everyone completely lose their minds over AI in 2023? I mean, there's that famous Landau study that just set the whole internet on fire.
Oh, the 80% study.
Yeah, exactly. It claimed that roughly 80% of U.S. workers have at least 10% of their work tasks exposed to AI. And almost 20% of workers have at least half of their tasks exposed.
Yeah.
When people hear a word like exposed, they immediately think
They think replaced.
replaced. Yeah.
They absolutely do. And that brings up the massive gap between actual real-world adoption and theoretical capability. So there's a new 2026 study by researchers Massenkoff and McCrory, and they looked at actual usage data from Claude.
Okay, the AI assistant.
Right. And the numbers they found are just staggering. They call this gap the capability overhang.
Capability overhang.
Yeah. Let's look at computer and math occupations. Theoretically, if you just look at the raw capabilities of the AI, their exposure is 94%.
Wow.
Yeah. So on paper, you would assume those departments are entirely automated by now. But when you look at the actual Claude coverage of those specific tasks happening in the real world, it is only 33%.
Wait, really? From 94% theoretical exposure down to just 33% actual usage.
Yes. And it gets even wilder when you look at other sectors. In business and finance, the theoretical exposure is 88%, but the actual usage is only 48%.
Okay.
And in office and administrative roles, which is the category where almost every pundit assumed AI would just wipe the board clean immediately, the theoretical exposure is 90%, but the actual observed usage, a mere 32%.
That's crazy. It's like buying a state-of-the-art $10,000 smart home system that can, run your security protocol, adjust your thermostat based on your body temperature, brew your morning espresso, and you only use it to set a kitchen timer when you're boiling pasta.
That is exactly it.
That is a massive capability overhang. But, I mean, I have to push back hard on
Go
this.
for it.
If Claude or ChatGPT can theoretically do 94% of a math or admin job, why wouldn't a ruthless corporate CEO just fire the IT department, force everyone to adopt the software, and pocket millions in cash?
Right.
Like, is this massive gap just because companies are being incredibly lazy and slow to adapt? Or is there some, like, fundamental wall this technology is hitting?
It is definitely not just laziness. There is very real, deeply entrenched structural friction at play here.
Friction. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, corporate adoption timelines are notoriously slow, yes, but think about the realities of enterprise architecture.
Mm.
AI might be brilliant at writing code, but securely connecting an experimental language model to a 30-year-old legacy banking database.
Oh, man.
Right. A database that is literally held together by duct tape and runs the financial data for millions of people. That is an absolute nightmare.
So just plugging it in is hard.
The integration friction alone takes years to overcome, and beyond that, you have incredibly strict regulatory requirements. A piece of software, no matter how advanced, cannot legally sign off on a corporate tax return. It cannot take liability for a medical diagnosis.
Right, because if the AI makes a mistake on taxes, the IRS can't exactly put an algorithm in federal prison.
Precisely the point. Someone has to be liable. And that ties directly into the ongoing need for human judgment in high-stakes decisions. The technology still hallucinates. It confidently invents facts.
Yeah, we've all seen that.
So quality and reliability concerns mean a human absolutely has to stay in the loop to verify the output. Now, I want to be very clear here, so we don't swing too far in the opposite direction.
That's fair.
The current absence of mass job loss shouldn't be confused with evidence of permanent safety. Just because the hurricane hasn't ripped the roof off your house yet doesn't mean the storm isn't real.
That's a good analogy.
But this capability overhang, it gives society and individual workers a vital window of time to actually prepare.
Which means if this theoretical exposure metric is a terrible map for navigating the future of our careers, we desperately need a better map. We can't just look at what a computer can do in a vacuum. And I know researchers at OpenAI's economic research team recently proposed a new way of looking at this terrain.
They did. They realized that looking purely at technical exposure is essentially a one-dimensional map.
Too simple.
Way too simple. To really understand who is safe and who is in trouble, we need to add several more layers to our understanding. And the most critical new layer they added is human necessity.
Human necessity.
Yeah. Even if an AI can perfectly execute the cognitive task, let's say it can brilliantly calculate the structural load of a suspension bridge or draft a flawless legal brief, humans might still be legally, socially, or physically required to be present.
Right, so they break that down.
They do. The research breaks this down into 3 types of human necessity. First, regulatory necessity, which we just touched on.
Federal prison thing.
Exactly. A licensed engineer legally has to sign their name to the bridge blueprints and take the legal liability. Second is relational necessity.
Like emotional stuff.
Yeah. Think of a nurse comforting a scared patient in the ICU or a kindergarten teacher motivating a frustrated student. Humans inherently prefer and demand human connection for those interactions. We don't want a robot doing that.
No, absolutely not.
And third is physical necessity. The AI simply cannot physically plumb a sink under your kitchen counter or rotate a patient in a hospital bed.
So when you lay it out like that, it covers a huge swath of the economy. How much of the workforce actually has that kind of protection?
When you factor in all 3 of those necessities, 81% of U.S. employment has some form of hard human necessity attached to it.
81%.
Yeah.
That is a massive guardrail against total automation. So even if the computer is a genius, society still demands a human body or a human signature in the room for 4 out of 5 jobs. That
Right.
totally changes the narrative.
It really does.
But I know there's another economic concept we have to layer onto this map. And here's where it gets really interesting. Demand elasticity. Let me see if I can translate this for you listening. Because once you grasp elasticity, it completely flips the math on job loss.
Yeah, please do.
So elasticity is basically asking, if AI makes a service 10% cheaper or faster to produce, does the market just buy the exact same amount of that service for less money? Or do they suddenly buy way more of it?
That is the perfect way to frame it. How does the market respond to a discount?
Right. So like, if you make corporate bookkeeping 10% cheaper, a company doesn't suddenly say, oh, great, let's do 10% more accounting this year.
No, they hate accounting. Right. They just pocket the savings. They only need their books balanced once. That is inelastic demand. The amount they consume doesn't stretch.
Exactly.
But if you make software development 10% cheaper, a tech company might say, amazing, let's build 3 new smartphone apps we couldn't afford to build last quarter. That demand is highly elastic. It stretches to consume all the new productivity.
And that elasticity is what determines whether an industry lays people off or goes on a massive hiring spree when a new technology arrives. Finally, the last layer to this new map is observed usage, which ties back to that Anthropic data we discussed earlier.
The Claude usage stuff.
Right. We can't just theorize.
Yeah.
We must measure what is actually happening on the platforms right now. We need to see whether the AI is fully automating a task or just augmenting a worker who is still sitting at their desk. So, to put this all together for you listening, your job security isn't just about what a supercomputer can do in a lab. It's about whether society legally lets a computer do it, whether human beings still crave a human touch, and whether making your daily work faster just creates a mountain of entirely new work for you to do.
Which is such a critical framing. And this raises an important question. How do these different layers actually combine in the real world? Because, they don't impact every career in the same way.
It's not one size fits all.
Not at all. If we use this map, basically every job in the entire labor market falls into one of 4 distinct buckets, or 4 different futures of work.
Okay, let's figure out which bucket you might be sitting in. Let's start with the danger zone. What happens to jobs where there is no human necessity and the demand is inelastic?
So that is the highest automation risk bucket, and it accounts for about 18% of employment.
Okay, 18%.
These are jobs with very high AI exposure. Making the work cheaper doesn't create more demand for it, and there's no legal, physical, or relational reason a human has to be the one doing it. We are talking about data entry keyers, routine clerical roles, basic customer service representatives.
So like answering basic billing questions or copying data from a PDF into a spreadsheet.
Yes. And we are already seeing the friction here in real time. Look at the call center industry.
Oh, yeah. What's happening there?
Several major retailers and telecom providers have recently cut their first-tier human staff by 15 to 30% and replaced them with AI-first service channels.
Wow.
But we have to look closer at what happened next. Those same companies reported increasing their staffing for complex problem resolution and complaint escalation.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't just empty the building. They automated the routine, simple inquiries like, where is my package? And they shifted their human workers to handle the highly emotional, complex, angry interactions that AI completely fails at.
Because the AI can't de-escalate someone who's screaming about a lost refund. That makes total sense. The AI takes the easy stuff, and the humans get stuck dealing with the complicated messes. What about jobs that still absolutely need a human, but the AI is capable of doing a ton of the actual heavy lifting?
So that is the biggest bucket, making up about 24% of employment.
Almost a quarter.
Right. And these jobs are going to fundamentally reorganize. They have high AI exposure, but strong human necessity. Think about lawyers, accountants, or medical record specialists.
Okay.
The AI can absolutely do a massive portion of their daily reading and writing, but we still strictly need the human in the loop for legal, fiduciary, or physical reasons.
Can you walk us through what that actually looks like on the ground? Because how does a job reorganize without people just getting fired?
The legal industry is the absolute poster child for this dynamic. The research highlights a specific AmLaw 100 firm that deployed AI to assist their associates with corporate contract review.
Okay, contract review.
Historically, you would have a room full of junior lawyers spending hundreds of hours reading through boxes of boring documents.
Sounds awful.
Oh, it is. But the AI came in and made that entire review process 40% faster.
Wow.
Now, if demand for legal work was inelastic, you would expect the partners to immediately lay off 40% of those associate attorneys to save money.
Right, because they just don't need them to read those boxes of documents anymore. They're done faster.
But they didn't fire them. Instead, because corporate clients always want more legal protection and less risk if they can afford it, the firm took all those freed up hours and expanded its regulatory compliance practice by 25%.
Oh, wow.
The junior lawyers stopped reading basic contracts and started conducting massive, complex compliance audits that the firm previously couldn't even offer at scale. They absorbed the massive productivity gain by offering a wider, deeper service to their clients. The job reorganized, it didn't disappear.
That is fascinating. The lawyers just leveled up what they were selling. It's like they moved up the value chain.
Exactly.
So what about the third bucket? The ones who hit the elasticity jackpot.
This covers about 12% of employment. These are the roles that will actively grow with AI. They have high exposure, but incredibly high demand elasticity.
Like who?
Software developers, graphic designers, even physical therapists in some contexts. The AI makes them dramatically more productive. The data shows software coders getting a 20 to 40% productivity bump when using AI assistants.
That's huge.
It really is. And because it's suddenly cheaper and faster to write code, tech companies aren't firing their engineers. Instead, they are realizing they can finally afford to build all those experimental software features and internal tools that were previously just sitting abandoned in the backlog.
Making the core task cheaper made the entire industry boom.
Exactly.
Okay, so that leaves the final bucket, which must be the people who work with their hands.
Correct. This is nearly half the workforce, roughly 46%.
The biggest group.
Yeah. Manual trades, construction workers, direct care nurses, plumbers. Their daily tasks have very low exposure to large language models right now, primarily because their work requires a substantial, complex physical presence in unpredictable environments.
But a warning to anyone sitting comfortably in that 46% bucket. Just because the change is less immediate does not mean you are permanently insulated. The technology is rapidly advancing into robotics and physical spaces, so the clock is ticking there too, just at a different speed.
Very true.
Now, looking at these four buckets, especially the ones categorized as at-risk and reorganizing, they look incredibly different from the factory workers who were affected by past waves of automation. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s when robotics hit the scene, it was the blue-collar manufacturing sectors that took the biggest hit. So who exactly is in the crosshairs this time around?
This is one of the most stunning findings in the data. It represents a complete demographic flip. Yes. Workers in the top quartile of AI exposure, meaning the people most likely to have their daily tasks performed by a language model, earn 47% higher wages on average than unexposed workers.
Wow, 47% higher.
They are nearly 4 times more likely to hold graduate degrees. Demographically, they are 16 percentage points more likely to be female, and they are more likely to be white or Asian and older. This is a total inversion of the historical norm. AI is aiming straight at the highly educated, high-wage, white-collar knowledge worker.
It is the revenge of the spreadsheet.
Yeah, pretty much.
But seriously, why is that? Why does having a master's degree suddenly make you more vulnerable to a piece of software?
Because of the mechanics of what white-collar work actually is, large language models are, at their core, incredibly advanced pattern recognition engines for text and data.
Right.
If your entire job exists on a glowing rectangle, and your daily value is essentially reading abstract symbols, summarizing them, and moving them from one software application to another.
Like analyzing financial data or writing marketing copy.
Exactly. Or synthesizing research. If that's what you do, you are dealing in the exact currency that LLMs process natively. You're competing directly with a machine that can read 1 million abstract symbols a second.
That paints a pretty clear picture. If you never touch the physical world, your digital world is highly exposed.
Yeah.
But given all this aggregate data showing that overall employment hasn't cratered yet, are there any negative trends flashing red under the surface?
Yes. There is one very specific negative trend flashing red right now. It's the youth squeeze.
The youth squeeze.
Yeah. The data shows a noticeable, documented hiring slowdown for younger workers, specifically ages 22 to 25, in highly exposed roles.
Oh, interesting.
Companies are using AI to do the entry-level drafting, the basic coding, and the initial summarization work that they traditionally use to hire thousands of recent college grads to do.
I mean, I remember my first job out of college. I spent my days formatting awful spreadsheets, proofreading mind-numbing memos, and essentially serving as a human router for information.
We all did.
I was terrible at it, but that grunt work was how I learned the business. So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this right now, whether you are a 22-year-old trying to break into an industry or a 52-year-old trying to protect your peak earning years, how do you protect yourself? If having a graduate degree and sharp technical skills is no longer the ultimate shield, what is?
It comes down to a crucial concept defined by researchers Otter and Thompson as expertise.
Expertise with a capital E.
Exactly. Historically, the labor market heavily valued routine cognitive work, being a human calculator, a fast typist, or a meticulous proofreader.
Right.
That era is gone. The new comparative advantage of a human being is judgment. It is contextual reasoning. It is knowing exactly when the AI is hallucinating and having the professional confidence to override it. It is ethical accountability. And above all, it is interpersonal trust.
It's the relational necessity we talked about earlier.
Exactly that. An AI system can draft the perfect, legally watertight settlement agreement in 10 seconds. But humans still want a human lawyer to sit across the conference table, look them in the eye, read their body language, and tell them it's the right deal to take.
That makes total sense.
If you want to protect your career, you need to ruthlessly cultivate the skills that a language model inherently cannot possess: empathy, complex negotiation, problem solving in highly ambiguous situations, and the ability to seamlessly collaborate with these AI tools as a manager rather than competing against them as a typist.
That is such an empowering way to frame it. We are wrapping up this deep dive, and if there's one core thing to take away today, is that the AI job apocalypse is not a simple linear equation of AI can write code, therefore all coders are instantly fired.
Far from it.
It is a highly complex, multidimensional dance. It's an intersection of theoretical technical capability, hard human necessity, elastic market demand, and the very real-world friction of government regulations and human preference.
What's fascinating here is that the AI transition is fundamentally shapeable. It is not some predetermined dystopian destiny that we just have to sit back and accept.
Right. It's not a runaway train.
Exactly. For you, the listener, navigating this map means the future belongs to those who actively lean into the very things that make them uniquely human. Cultivate your judgment. Deepen your empathy. Maintain your adaptability. We are moving rapidly into an era where your professional value isn't just about outputting raw data, it's about overseeing that data, questioning its validity, and applying it to human problems with a human touch.
Shapeable. We aren't just passengers on this ride, but I want to leave you with a final puzzle to mull over on your commute or your walk or wherever you are right now. We talked about how the future of work relies heavily on human judgment, interpersonal skills, and deep expertise. And we also talked about how the one group really getting squeezed right now is the 22 to 25-year-olds, because AI is taking over all those entry-level routine tasks.
Yeah, that youth squeeze.
Well, how does a junior employee ever become a senior expert with great judgment? Usually they get that judgment by spending years grinding through those exact entry-level tasks, making mistakes, and learning by osmosis. If AI permanently takes the bottom rungs off the career ladder, how will the next generation of workers ever get enough practice to develop that expert human judgment in the first place? Think about that next time you ask an AI to draft your emails. And remember, that blinking cursor isn't a countdown to your replacement. You're just waiting for you to tell it what to do.